Welcome back, so happy to see you again. And something you've probably heard a lot of times by now is this concept of instant versus delayed gratification. You might also be familiar with the famous marshmallow test in which small kids had the option to either eat the marshmallow right now or wait 15 minutes to get 2 marshmallows. And those who waited ended up being very top performers in whatever they did when they grew up. But how do we become like the good kids? How can we steer away from the easy path and resist all the temptations, whether it's junk food, video games, too much scrolling and fast cash? How can we make delayed gratification enjoyable right now? I looked into what the current research says, and combined with my current experience of pretty much always prioritizing long-term activities over short-term activities, I think I found a powerful way to delay gratifications without it feeling so horrible, which I'm excited to share with you today. First of all, this discussion would be useless if we not mention this molecule we all have in our brains, which is dopamine. According to these two great books, The Molecule of More and Dopamine Nation, dopamine makes us want something. It motivates us to do stuff and move towards things we find very fun or very meaningful. And if we don't have this molecule, we will not want to live. And what's important to know here that there is a baseline, and if we deliberately increase the dopamine now via instant gratifications activities such as stimulating food, sex, drugs, etc., dopamine will afterwards drop below baseline and cause this unpleasant feeling that wants us to do it again, which is how addictions work. The reverse is also true. Let's say you do something hard in a moment. It could be weightlifting, running, sitting down and making progress on that important but uncomfortable work project, or taking a cold shower. Although it might drop below baseline right now, it will increase afterwards. You will feel so good, and sometimes you will even feel good during the activity. Let's say if you happen to be in a flow state or in a runner's high. So when we fall prey for instant gratification activities, we are incurring a debt that we need to pay back afterwards. But if we do activities that delay gratification instead, our body rewards us for work well done and we get more and more afterwards. Now here's what's cool about this. We have the power to release dopamine to whatever we want if we genuinely call it fun or meaningful, or both. Yes, it's very subjective, and as long as we don't lie to ourselves but appreciate the pain, appreciate the sweat and appreciate the discomfort, we can enjoy the current moment and reap all the rewards later. We can also get energy to do it, since the energy molecule in our brains, which is called epinephrine, is made from dopamine. So think about that next time you feel tired, like, okay, I like to do what I want to do, and then I get the energy and whoops, all that happens. And this is how I managed to get through many hard days to achieve my goals. During my years of intense Pokemon Go playing, there were a lot of windy and rainy days, and often all of them combined with cold weather. And I can tell you that it's not fun at all to have cold hands tapping a wet screen, trying to control an umbrella that is pretty much useless in windy weather, and do that for 3 hours straight. But I saw the value in it. It was absolutely clear that I wanted to do what was required every day, no matter the obstacles. Once I started to see the situation outside as proof of how resilient I was, it became much easier to show up, go through these hours, and feel very good afterwards. If you're very disciplined and like to do hard things, you probably realize that backing out is not an option for us. We are absolutely certain in our minds that I have to go through this no matter the cost and nothing can stop me. It also makes the process a whole lot easier if we don't need to question ourselves all the time. Like, should we quit now? I feel terrible. Why don't we just pause? No, we just keep going and become better as a result, loving the struggle and pain. In fact, if we want to appreciate the journey and struggle and pain even more than the rewards, crazy I know. In this famous research paper by David Green and Mark D. Lepper, the researchers divided a set of preschool children into two groups. All of them loved to draw things on paper, but one of the groups won awards in form of gold stars whenever they managed to draw a very good picture, while the other group did not get such rewards. Ironically, the researchers found out after 1 to 2 weeks that as soon as the children were more focused on getting these awards rather than drawing for the sake of drawing, they lost more and more motivation to do the drawing practice itself, while the children in the other group who did not get the rewards continued to love drawing as before. So if we go back to our own delayed gratification activities, always rewarding ourselves with some kind of a treat can backfire backfire actually. So what we should do instead is to get as much pleasure from the struggle itself, let the struggle define our identity and build our confidence from, and maybe once in a while get some external rewards. If we do that consistently, we have the recipes to sustain this good practice. And so far we only covered the activities themselves, like trading in junk food for exercise, but I want to take this even further and talk about things like careers and life choices, because this concept of instant versus delayed gratification also happens there. As soon as we realize what the term productivity is, which is getting more of what you want per unit of time, we can play around with different time horizons. One practice I picked up from very successful people was long-term thinking. Rather than trying to get rich quick, get these instant sales, having side hustles and jumping from opportunity to opportunity, they focus instead on one opportunity and then spend the early years living poor, fail constantly but work intensely again and again and again until what they had to offer was so good that their careers exploded into massive wealth and goodwill. Even the Beatles, the most successful band of all time, spent 2 years in Germany playing at the local bar 5 to 6 hours a night every day. That's a lot of work without recognition, but they became so good afterwards that everything they did was met with platinum records and a lot of Beatlemania. So here are again this delayed gratification, and as I'm right now in this early stage myself, I live on way less than my peers from school, living sort of below the spotlight at the moment. And if you're young and happen to be in the same spot, you know that it's so hard to not compare to other people and question what we are doing all the time. But trying to cash out early and stand out in the short term is also instant gratification, and it can also backfire. Take for instance the most extreme example, Sam Bankman-Fried, who reached a net worth of over 20 billion US dollars in his 20s, but it was all thanks to the fraud and crimes he did with FTX. And now he's worth almost nothing, and he's probably a lot of decades to face in prison by now. So from a long-term perspective, this was clearly an extremely bad move. And while most people have some kind of a flat trajectory because they are too distracted, I believe if you and I have this long-term perspective in mind all the time, it will decrease anxiety now because it will certainly work out in the end. And it justifies also spending these 1, 2, 3, even 5 years or 10 years right now to then get all what we can ask for later. But remember the kids who grew stuff. And even here we can get all the rewards on these attempts, these repetitions and this daily grind, rather than being disappointed when all the external rewards not satisfy us, as they often don't. Maximum productivity is after all doing the right thing over and over and over again without distraction. So as long as both you and I keep doing that, we can be extremely proud of what we are doing, even if the world has not seen it yet. The famous Walt Disney once said that we don't make movies to make money, we make money to make more movies. And he was emphasizing the value of our daily activity over any reward we could have afterwards. And that's extremely empowering, to be honest, especially when we only have the activity and nothing else. But that does not really help when we are so tempted right now eating this cookie, sort of take me and take me, all that stuff. Or just check Twitter for the 25th time today. So I'll finish off with this number one strategy I use in decisive moments to always choose delayed gratification. First of all, it's important to recognize that we do these bad habits quite unconsciously. I mean, how often have you gone into the toilet and whoops, your phone is right there? So as long as we first become aware that this is what's going on, I'm watching myself grabbing this cookie, but I don't really want to. It feels like something is pulling us, and in this case, this one is. Then comes our secret weapon. Enjoy the extremely agitated feeling in itself without doing anything. We don't see it as bad, just see it for what it is, a strong sensation in the body and nothing more. We want to be curious, we want to explore that sensation, how it's feeling in our face and our arms and our legs, etc. And as long as we continue to pay attention to it, we are in control. But as soon as we drift and think about something else, then we pretty much do the bad thing without us knowing it. So as long as we enjoy this unpleasant urge like a spa, it just vanishes from me every time, that urge, and ultimately that cookie. You can also ask if you 10 10 years into the future would approve what you did right now to get this sort of long-term thinking again. I also do the same thing with hard activities. Whenever I sit down to write, I still feel a sense of fear and this feeling of not ready, please get me out of there. But I've learned to enjoy this feeling and being okay with doing absolutely nothing as long as I not do anything else. And as soon as I open up that note again, every fear disappears right on the spot. And then there's this flowy and fantastic experience which is creating. But of course, let's say if you want to lose weight, we don't need to make it harder by having cookies like these. We can just remove them altogether from where we live. But I found that the more I confront this urge head on and see it for this tiny, tiny feeling for what it really is and not this freakish monster, I don't need to remove instant gratification activities altogether. I still have cookies like these and social media once a day, and it does not go overboard anymore because I know the urge and I know when to stop. So as a quick recap, delaying gratification is actually the wrong way to say it. What we want to do instead is start to enjoy the struggle, enjoy the deprivation, and look forward to doing another of these reps. So as long as we work with ourselves and focus on constant enjoyment and remove punishment altogether, both you and I have the power to always do the best of what we want and get more of what we could have asked for later. And we'll see in 20 years if that was a good strategy. As always, I'm very interested to see what you thought about it. Is it as relieving to hear that we can decide to enjoy what you want and then do it? Maybe you can share your experience with doing the best every time. Until then, thank you so much for sticking around so far, and always remember that you're the most amazing human being alive.